Today, we have an incredible guest, Emily Steadman, coming and talking to us about movement and family play and nature. This girl is incredible. She has the most energy that you can imagine, and I am so excited to have her on today because she is an expert in all things movement and play and nature, and she has amazing wisdom and expertise on exactly how we can build greater family bonds through movement. So stay tuned. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's walk and talk. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. We are on episode number 128, Nature's Playground, Building Family Bonds Through Movement with Emily Steadman, the wonderful, amazing Emily. She's, like I said before, a wonderful friend of mine, so beautiful, and I'm incredibly excited to have her here today. So thank you, Emily, for coming on the show with us.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
A little bit about you, and then if you want to pipe in with anything else. But I first met Emily when we were training to teach a weightlifting class or
Strength training class.
strength training class. And she was so much fun, such a ball of energy that was just contagious. Like you can't help but be excited when you're around her. So I was like, yeah, we definitely need to be friends. And it ended up working out quite well, I would say.
Yes, and it along too, so it's perfect.
I know. And that was, do you even know how many years ago that was?
Well, Carter was a year and he is 9 now.
Oh,
So,
8 years.
uh,
Nice. I love it. Well, I thought of movement, wanting to talk about that today. I was like, oh, Emily's going to be the perfect one for this. But a little bit of background about Emily. She has her bachelor's degree in recreational management, which you can share about in a little bit. And she has 4 children and she's married and she has lots of animals that I'll let her tell you about and just is kind of dabbling in all of the things. Like there's so many amazing things that you're in, Emily. So I want you to share a little bit about that story yourself, if you wouldn't mind. So tell us about you.
oh, wow. Well, thanks, Kendra. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none.
I don't know about that.
But I love life and I love to move and play and explore and just like, yeah, if it's something that piques my interest, I dive in and I want to learn about it and I want to try to do it and incorporate it into my life. Yeah, I got a degree at BYU, Idaho many moons ago. And it was such a fun degree to acquire because it's literally the art of learning how to play and have fun. And then sometimes you get paid for it.
I like that sometimes. Sometimes.
Sometimes you get paid for it. But most of the time it's just to enhance your life and the life of your family. And that's how, as a mother, I have incorporated it the most. Of course, I have done a little bit of dabbling in different jobs and career aspects with that degree helping me to acquire those. But for the most part, what I've learned in college and just throughout my life, I've just incorporated it as a mom and just as a friend. And I'm always playing and looking for excuses to play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you didn't mention it, but you are an incredible, well, is that the official term, like gymnast, rock climber, all those things? I don't know if they're what they call it. But
Yeah.
you are so bendy and brave and ballsy. Can I say that? I think I can say that. But
Fearless, baby.
yes, fearless is probably a more appropriate one. Just
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I was a competitive gymnast. I don't know, the first 15 years of my life or so. I did competitive gymnastics, absolutely loved it. I never wanted to do anything else. In high school, I kind of dabbled in power tumbling, and then did a little bit of just, I don't know, just acrobatic stuff. I just love flipping around and going upside down and just being able to bend myself in weird ways.
I love that.
I find a lot of joy when my body can move in that way. And that, I would say, that has been a big part of my life. Even now, I work for a dance studio as an acro teacher, which is acrobatics, acro dance teacher, tumbling, different terms for it. But yeah, I teach children and youth how to safely learn tricks and learn how to do cool moves that they can incorporate into dance, into like dance choreography. And they look amazing on stage and they just do such a great job. And I'm blessed to be a part of the studio. It's been really fun because
Oh,
I've worked at different gymnastics facilities for many years, and acro is a little bit new for me, but it has been really fulfilling. It's been fun. So yeah.
I really love so many aspects of what you do. And I, on my bucket list is like learn how to do a handstand and like get more bendy. Part of it's too late. I know it's not too late. I know you. I'm like, oh, I just feel very stiff all the time, even though I love to exercise and move and I do all of those things. When I
Mhm.
watch you do gymnastics, I think, how is that even possible as an adult? But you make this seem so easy, right? Maybe you should
Oh,
just work with adults. I don't know.
well, you should come on over. I do have a home gym.
That is a good point. I have actually thought about that quite a bit. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about yourself. Like listeners can probably tell, you are gifted in many areas. And like you said, you have your hands in many things, acrobatics, rock climbing. Well, we didn't even get to your beautiful home and all of that. I'm sure you'll share that in your story in just a minute. But I wanted to get into a few questions that would help listeners if you're okay with me asking you some.
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, first one. What advice would you give to parents who lack confidence or maybe experience, but really want to have more movement or even that family play in their homes?
Yeah. I think this has a lot to do with habit. Like when we have good habits in our family of being able to have play and movement in such a way that the kids look forward to it. I know a lot of like, as a busy mom, I know how intriguing it may seem to just, when you're making dinner, to just let the kids watch TV so you can do it or whatever. But I feel like instead, we have developed a culture in our home where everyone is a part of it. Just like assigning chores, we also assign dinner time with the kids. And so I'm like helping them make the dinner. They're helping me turn on music and we're like dancing like while we're making dinner. And we just try and make it like a fun, uplifting atmosphere. And then those who are not helping in the kitchen, they're outside playing or they're upstairs in the big gym room and they're jumping around and, just not having the expectation. But when we get home, we turn on the TV. Like that's not what we do. So I think if a parent is like trying to incorporate that, maybe being able to say to yourself that it's okay to change. It's actually really great to change and to start new habits and say, okay, we go to the grocery store. Instead of handing you a screen to look at in the grocery cart, you're going to walk beside me and you're going to like me pick out the fruits and you're going to help me like find this or that. And even littles can have a really fun time doing that, and they feel so grown up, and you can play grocery store, and so I think it's just looking for opportunities to incorporate pretend and play throughout your busy time as a mom, right? I don't know if that answered your question, but
No, it more than answers my question. And I love how you broke it down into these little easy things that we can do. You talked about the shopping cart. You talked about dinner time. Like these are things we all experience. And I was actually just thinking that the other day, like whenever I go out into the community, often the little kids are on their tablet or at sporting events. And sometimes that's fantastic. Like sometimes that's all you've got. That's all you can give. And most of the times, it's really not necessary, right? And that can be that small 1%. So I love that you talked about that. And also how you said kids look forward to it. And we might have to work up to that, like as we're working out the kinks, like they might hate helping you with dinner. And it is this process, right? Like you make it more fun, try something new. Okay, maybe they hate that music, maybe, something else that your family culture loves. So those are amazing tips. I do want to say a quick thing about Emily. I would think I mentioned you before, Emily. I'm not sure if I mentioned it by name, but when I was talking about like healthy screen guidelines or tips to do something in families, well, I mentioned how I had a friend that had really great tech boundaries. And I was talking about you because you are my top friend when it comes to not having your phone in front of you or not looking at it every time somebody texts you. Like I don't even notice your phone when we're together. It's just away or not even on your mind. And I feel you're so present and I feel like you appreciate me. And this other side conversation that's going on the entire time is not more important. And I love that about you.
Oh, well, thanks. I make that a very high priority in my life. And I hope that everyone can feel that when they're with me. I know sometimes it's inevitable. We have to answer the phone or we have to do, but I actually have a magnet on my fridge. It's like a picture of this lady sitting in a lawn chair with like a big beach hat on. And she says, she turned off her phone and lived happily ever after.
That is so perfect. It could be the meme of the show today. Perfect.
Absolutely love it because that's when I feel the most free is when I'm not attached to that thing. And it's hard because it is such a tool and we are so dependent on it. Like I had a friend that like her phone like, totally died she went like 3 days without her phone and she was no line to pick up kids when this and that. She was missing emails like chaos for like 3 days because they are our lifeline to what as moms, like that's how we know what's going on with our kids and with our husbands and with like if you have church callings, like so much that happens. But yet there is a beauty in putting it away for the times that you are connected with a person. The person that is physically right in front of you is more important at that moment. And so it is important. And I feel like essential to put that phone away. In college, I had a professor. I took a class called family recreation. Like that's actually a thing.
Nice.
It was such a fun class. And in that class, my professor, whom I adore, her name is Carrie Archibald, and she was such a great example to me of so many things. But one of the things she talked about was the increase of cell phone use. And this was back in 2007. So in 2007, she expressed her concern for the increase in cell phone use with the interaction between parents and children.
Right.
And spoke to all of us rec majors, and she was saying, it's going to be a problem. You make this your career, you are going to see that cell phones are going to interfere with relationships. And we like back in 2007, cell phones weren't really, everybody had them, but we weren't seeing the negative impacts that they were on society like we do now. Right. And she was, and she said, you're going to go to park and you're going to go to places and you're going to see parents sitting on the sidelines or on the bench on their phones instead of watching their kids and playing with their kids. And we all were like, what? Totally blown away. And it's totally commonplace now. Completely. Yeah. And I just feel like, because it's so common, we don't see the negative of it like everybody does it. And it's like be that person, be that mom, be that parent, be that friend or caretaker or whatever that interact. And yes, we have to check our phones sometimes, but to literally spend the entire hour that you're there, like scrolling, I feel very passionate about it. I did my senior thesis on, it's a book by Richard Louv, and it's called Last Child in the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole book, and I would highly recommend the book to anyone listening. It's such a great book because he talks about the dangers of not only technology and children, like the overuse of technology in children, but just that disconnect that they have with nature, because parents are like too much fear, or they think that, oh, my kid is going to get dirty, or they're going to, like, all these things that nature, like, they put a negative vibe on instead of embracing nature for what it can do for them, which is a huge part of their development and social skills and creativity. Like, there's numerous studies, and I'm sure you have read all kinds of things in your profession about the benefit that nature exposure can have on children. And it's huge, huge, huge. I can keep talking about it if you want, but go ahead.
Oh, no, I love that. I think that was one big project I did too. It wasn't a thesis or anything, but about nature, movement, and connection, how those three is a superpower connection formula, I guess we should say, for happiness. Like, those three things they found are so powerful to creating greater happiness. I had a couple things I wanted to mention. Just talking to my daughter about this, I was saying, I think founding forefathers, or even the pioneers, or our ancestors a couple hundred years ago or more, would have been mortified had they walked in and seen some of the things that we were doing. For example, for the first time ever, yes, I think it was the first TV we've ever bought. We just bought this year for Christmas because the other one was so old it wasn't working anymore. And the new one, it has like all these things automatically there and things we can't shut off, and we're like still trying to figure it out. So for the first time ever, my kids have access to kids YouTube or something, and I'll walk in and we can't even lock it down like we could before. We're still trying to figure that out. And anyway, I walked in and they were watching the mindless, stupid, just ridiculous stuff that what made me think about forefathers. And like, if they were so well read, they were so competent in so many ways, and I feel like we're dumbing down our children. But then when I was talking about generations, every generation has something that they learn, and in hindsight, like, they regretted and they wish they would have changed. Every single one. We talk about it all the time with mental health. And I often think, like, what will our generation regret with our children? And likely, because the studies aren't all out there yet, it's going to be much tech, too little nature. And you even hit on this, Emily, like those connection bids that we were connecting with our children are suddenly not happening. So we're not creating those safe and secure relationships with our children, those bonds.
Yeah. Completely. I have a tragic story. No, I mean, it's not super tragic, but on that note, a few years ago, I had taken my kids camping, and there was a campsite near us with some little kids playing, and their parents, I kid you not, were on their phones the entire morning, like, that we first got there. And their kids, I could see that the kids were like trying, interact with their parents, like, do something. And they eventually just gave up. And around lunchtime, they came to our campsite and started playing with us, because we were out, doing stuff with their kids, and we'd like, we were riding by. I had cornhole things set up. We were just playing and interacting with them. And those poor kids like left their parents and came to our site to play with us. And I thought, like, good job, right? You brought camping, but you're literally on your phone the whole time. What?
Yeah, missing the mark a little bit. I think you're right there.
So, like, missing that connection. And I don't know, maybe they had to work that morning and that was like the only time that they could do. I'm not trying to be judgmental. I was just from the outside, like, mom, I just thought, oh my gosh, that's so sad, because these kids came and played with us.
Right. And something that you're really naturally good at. So I think a lot of listeners, it is easy to get down on ourselves. For example, during grad school and even after, sometimes we got into the habit of more screens than we had earlier in our life, like situationally. And some of our listeners are in that way, in that kind of environment right now, like maybe wanting to improve, but feeling like it's just too hard. I'm wondering if you could share some examples of maybe how you incorporate play or movement, or even tips on how our listeners might be able to do that, just bit by bit.
Okay. So one thing I would recommend is maybe even just starting with a family council and sitting down with your kids. And if you have a spouse, just sitting down and just saying, okay, what are some things that you would love to do as a family? Like, what are some things that you think are fun? And so maybe you start as simple as, like, let's go on a family bike ride every Sunday afternoon, or plan a walk in one of the nearby parks every Saturday or whatever. And even like on a daily basis, like, we find pockets of time to play with our kids, whether it's something as simple as a board. Like last night I had like a half-hour window where I was at home, dinner was done. The older girls were gone. So I had just had the two younger kids. And so we sat down and played a little card game of Sleeping Queens.
Nice.
And so fun. And it was only like a half hour and just a pocket of time where we just said, okay, we're going to do this with the kids right now to give them that time and attention. And it was great, and it really didn't take like that much effort on my part. It wasn't super active per se because we were just sitting down doing a game, but it was still playful and it was fun and we're making memories. That's a big part of why I do what I do is what type of memory is this going to make? And the thought that I always try and have, I shouldn't say always, that I try. I mess up just like anyone else. And I'm sure there's lots of moms that do this even better than I do. But something that I try and incorporate is this thought process of what type of memories am I making right now? What are my kids going to remember? If I were to die tomorrow, what would they remember of? And how would they feel when they think of me? Would they know that I loved them because I gave them attention when they needed it? Was I there when they asked for it? Was I a happy mom? Well, not all the time. Like I yell at my kids. I get mad, and we all have things that we're working on. And honestly, getting into those habits of being playful might seem a little bit out of your comfort zone. I naturally have a playful personality and maybe everyone doesn't. And that's okay. And we're all made differently, but I feel kids appreciate effort. And I feel kids can tell when you're trying and they are full of grace. And kids are so forgiving and they love you, whether or not you may feel like they do, especially when they become teenagers, but they do. And they want to connect with you. And they may say that they like their screens and that they would rather like play on their tablet than play with you. But I promise you, it is so much better for both of you to just put the screens away and connect with them.
It is wonderful. I love how you gave different, not just tips, but insights into that too. I just want to repeat some of those things. Like, what are my kids going to remember about me? Kids appreciate effort and they're forgiving and full of grace. They want to connect with you. I love those little nuggets because that is so true. I found that again and again with myself and with what clients are saying. But it reminds me of my youngest son, Ezra. All of my kids learned to ride their bikes a little bit late. I don't know why. We're just not as brave, I guess, in that regard. But he finally learned to ride it. And I was like, yes, the last rite of passage, like the last younger kid one. And I was so excited. So he's still a little slow and nervous though. So wants to go out with me every day, but he's just not it's like a drunk driver on a bike kind of thing. So right. I was like, I should probably be going out with him for a while before I let him loose where there's cars around. So I've just been going out with him probably just like 15 minutes a day. And he gets so excited about this one-on-one time. And now all the neighborhood kids are joining us. And it's just, I'm the only mom really out there. I see moms walking, but I'm the only one that's often like on a bike or on a little scooter and I'm like, come on, moms, like get out here, come play with us. But it's not very common, sadly. And again, not as a harsh thing, but the moms are on the screens too. It's not just the kids. Like we all need to get out. So
all of us. It's important for all of us. And I thought when my kids, I guess I should preface, I should have said this earlier. My kids I have a 13-year-old, 11, 9, and 5. And so when they were, let's rewind even 5 years ago or 8 years ago, like they were all pretty little. And it was when our first was born, I was determined, I was fresh out of college with all this like recreation management in my brain. Yeah. Hike with our kids. We're going to camp with our kids. And we start them so young so that it's not a shock, like we take them camping as early as 6 weeks old and we're out hiking. I strap them to, let's go. Like, and that gets them used to nature because they start at such a young age and they're accustomed to it. And it's also like they learn to play with each other as siblings and they learn, just so many great things in nature, the coordination that it takes to climb a tree and, just all the wonderful nuggets that we can get from Mother Nature because she is the best, like.
Absolutely. It's just amazing how personalities lift. Even my husband and I, when we're feeling kind of grumpy after dinner, just really just weighed down and overwhelmed and tired from the day, I'm like, let's go on a quick walk around the neighborhood. And every single time it elevates my mood so fast. I'm like, yes, incredible.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You had mentioned our animals and we have 8 chickens and we have a cute little bunny and a snake, though the snake and the bunny are not friends.
Good.
But I totally feel that way as far as getting that dose of fresh air. Sometimes when tension is high in the house, I'm like, I just have to get outside. And I just go outside and I hang out with my chickens or I go and pet the bunny or whatever, and just to go outside and like get that fresh air, to feel the breeze in my it does magical things to us. And that doesn't take very long. Leave and actually go on an adventure whenever I want, but that's not always conducive as a mom, right?
Absolutely.
We're here to take care of our kids, but it's so important to do those escapes as a mom.
Definitely. I feel like this is such a broad topic that we could talk about just every little avenue forever and feel so excited. And there's just so much information we could offer. But this is maybe a last question. Well, I have a last question after that too. But this one is the last bigger one. How do you create greater fulfillment personally and live up to your potential regarding either like nature, either movement or nature and play in your own life?
Well, several years ago, after I had one of my babies, I can't remember which one, I was feeling a lot of postpartum depression. And I went to see my doctor and she listened to me and she was so kind. And then at the end of it, she said, you know what you need? You need to go rock climbing more. And I'm really she knew I was a rock climber and she knew I loved everything about rock climbing and just going out, being on the rock and being in nature and being in my harness and hanging upside down and all the things that I love to do. But I wasn't doing them because I had just had this baby and my baby was only 6 weeks old at the time. And she said, I give you full permission to like on the rock again, out, like go do what you love. And that's going to elevate your spirit. And I took her advice and never looked back. And it was life changing. And I felt I found myself again and I was able to be Emily and not just a mom. And I shouldn't say not just a mom because that's my greatest title is a mom, but I'm also someone outside of a mom. And I am a person who loves adventure and adrenaline and thrill and wherever I can find it, whether it's on a rock wall or climbing a mountain or riding a bike really fast down a mountain. I love going fast downhill and just like, or skiing or snowboarding or, whatever the season is, I want to be out there experiencing life because there's so much and every season offers opportunity and every season offers adventure. I took it up a notch about 5 years ago. It was during COVID and my sister and I decided to invite a bunch of friends to come with us and adventure in the mountains. And we started hosting adventure retreats for women. And it was so much fun. And over the year, we have hosted dozens and dozens of women on these retreats where we go mountain biking and rock climbing and paddleboarding and hiking and backpacking and just, oh my gosh, doing so many things and doing yoga. And then we do funny things, making bracelets and doing each other's hair, doing nails. So we do a lot of well-rounded things, but for the most part, we just feel like such an important role as mothers is to get out without your kids and also play and adventure. Because yes, it's great to do it with your kids and that's wonderful because you're building memories. But you riding a bike with Ezra, you're probably not going very fast, right?
No, not at all.
So you're just kind of like keeping him safe. You're kind of there. But your inner gerbil, because I know you have an inner gerbil like me, your
Yes.
inner gerbil is dying to go fast and to ride fast and to go off a jump if you want or like whatever. And so that's when we can do it is as women, we can get out and do those things and play and have fun and take a little bit of a risk and get out of our comfort zones because it does so many great things to our brain and our body and our heart and our soul. It just awakens us because we are finding ourselves again and it makes me feel so alive. And I just love it.
I am so grateful you shared that because that is what so many parents experience. At first, I thought it was just moms, but then I started working with a lot of dads too. And somewhere along the line, I don't think we necessarily told ourselves this, but we just kind of bought into this belief that we just, I don't know if need to be lame, but we become lame when we have younger kids. And we just we stop playing, we stop putting our energy into our passions, and we put it all into our family, which is really beautiful in some ways. Except for then what we find is the mental health of the parents struggles and suffers, and then our children suffer because we're no fun to be around. We're grumpy, we're fussy, we're reactive. And then as soon as the parents come into therapy or do their own work, suddenly they're refilling their tank. And Emily,
Yeah.
when I was hearing you speak about these things, the joy and enthusiasm and excitement on your face, like that is passion, that is joy, that is fulfillment. And you personify that so well because you are living, not to sound corny here, but like your truth. You are living up to your potential in that way and very much embracing those passions. And I love that about you.
No.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing those things, that truth. And I love also how you didn't specifically say that, but almost like your doctor gave you permission to set aside maybe that any guilt or shame you might be feeling and be like, okay, it's been 6 weeks, but this is what you need to get better. So go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
She's
good.
like, for the kids, like get a sitter for the kids and
Yeah.
just go do this. It was a great piece of advice that she gave, and it was life-changing.
Yeah. And I guarantee I can't say that always we're a better parent because I've seen some parents take it to the other extreme where then they're neglecting their kids. It's like this balance. I think we could go back to this when Kenzie first brought it a guest first brought it up, but that relationship, are my kids more important to me? Am I less important than some others? Treating everyone that they have equal value and they all deserve play and nature and movement and to dive into their passions and the things they love instead of one person trumping the others,
Mm-hmm. My parents were really good examples of playing with our kids or with their kids, us, my siblings and I. And they showed by example that life and family time can be fun. It's not always fun. Like, yeah, it can be stressful. It can be. And frankly, sometimes as young parents, maybe we're not playing because we're just exhausted.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's especially like with babies and toddlers. Man, if we have a free hour, we're gonna take a nap.
Mhm.
So I totally get that there are seasons where we can incorporate this. I'm just so appreciative that I had parents and mentors throughout my life that taught me through example that play is essential and play is important, and it's a big part of bonding in families, and it's more than exercising and going to the gym. It's great too, but being able to incorporate humor and goofiness into life.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so good at that, Kendra. I feel like you always have the funny things. So I have to tell you the funniest story because I know you appreciate it. So humor. Last week, Elsie was walking in. She's my 5-year school. Elsie was walking into the school holding a helium balloon, and she tripped, and she dropped the balloon, let go of it, and it floated up, and it got caught like in the rooftop of the patio, like outside the school. And without even thinking, it was so instinctive. I rock climbed up the wall, grabbed the balloon, and jumped down. She looked at me and she says, "Mom, you're like Spider-Man."
Oh, that is so cute.
I handed it over to her and I laughed and I thought, oh my gosh, like if anyone saw that, they probably would think I'm so crazy.
Actually, I was hoping that people saw that. That would make it even better. If I were watching through a window and I saw that, I would have been like clapping.
It's just so funny. I'm like, I wonder if they got that on camera. They're probably going to like kick my kids out of school. They'll be like, this lady's crazy. Like climbing walls.
Oh, I love that. That actually, just a quick side note before I ask you the last question. I just did my humor therapy episode and I have this mannequin that I've been like rotating so many days. I was going to put that mannequin in your house and scare you, but your house is just far enough that I couldn't fit it in between errands. But I was like, oh, she would have been so fun to get like so many times. So just know it's coming.
Okay. I'll look
In closing today, I was wondering if you have a final quote or mantra that you live by that you feel like would be beneficial for listeners today.
I feel like I said a lot of things earlier. I don't know how to really sum it up. Though my senior quote in high school was kind of a foreshadow of the rest of my life. And it seems silly and it was so long ago, but I feel like I still live true to it. And that quote was, when life gives you a rainy day, find a puddle to splash in. And I just think that life can be hard. Like, it's hard being a mom sometimes. It's hard being a parent, but we can find ways to play. We can find little puddles to jump in here and there, whether that, dancing in the kitchen while you're making dinner, or whether that's taking time out to jump on the trampoline with your kids outside for a few minutes, taking them on a bike ride like you are doing with Ezra for 15 minutes a day, like having those little windows of time and taking it to the advantage of memories with your children and showing them that life can be enjoyable. Even though sometimes it's hard, and even though sometimes it's stressful, and even though we do want to just hide behind our phones and get lost in who knows what, it's healthier for us, and it's better for the longevity of our happiness and our joy when we find those puddles to splash in and we look for opportunities to love our kids on a deeper level, because the best way to show them love is by giving them our time. Because our time is our greatest asset, and we'll never get that back. And creating memories with them is crucial to our development, to their development, to our relationship with them. When they become adults, they're going to want to spend time with us because we spent time with them.
I think that's a beautiful place to end. And it just reminds me of that. I don't know the exact quote, but at the end of our lives, we're not going to regret not working more. We're going to regret not putting in those connection bids and playing and interacting with the people that we love the most. And that is one of those ways is through play. And I love just how simply you said earlier, play is essential. And it truly is for our spirits, for our fulfillment, for our bodies. It really is essential. So thank you so much, Emily, for all of these amazing golden nuggets of wisdom that you gave us today and how you live that fully in your own life. You're such an example of playful movement, of connecting with nature, of getting together with your children and just enjoying life. And I love that about you. I very much appreciate that. So thank you again.
Well, you're welcome. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And I will, if you want to mention it also, but in the show notes, we have a link that you can find. Emily, is that for work or what is that for?
Yeah, that's for this dance studio that I work for. It's called Ascend Dance Studio. And they're a great studio located in Middleton, Idaho. It's just a fun place to work and a fun place to learn and grow with kids and as families.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, we'll check that out in the show notes. And once again, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you. No matter what your house or your hair looks like, I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.